Internet, and welcome to episode 74 of the Deep Fried Neurons podcast. You have read the title. I just wanted to do an episode on it that has a coagulated cloud of sound that sort of recognizes this problem, at least. There never could be more information on the internet about this, right? Just that was the thought behind it. Of course, I thought historically one of our biggest medical mistakes was important to record so that we don't get hubris about it. Well, trigger warning, violence, even sexual violence is discussed in this podcast pretty gratuitously. So there you go. I'm gonna cue the fucking. Well, I'm pretty sure you got a trigger warning in the intro as well, but nonetheless, you can't be too safe. Trigger warning here as well. And we'll be talking about a lot of violence, a lot of brainwashing, gaslighting that happens, along with social conformity used as a tool against people who are queer as a blanket term, but LGBTQIA plus as a more accurate terminology here. Not necessarily all inclusive, but you get the point. You know what we're talking about. So, just to get out of the way, what conversion therapy is, it is a pseudoscientific methodology that claims to cure mostly LGB, but also extendable to all of the LGBTQIA personnel, of curing them of their condition and bring them into a heteronormative, marriage conforming binary gender or sexual orientation. And the success usually is measured in the form of a healthy marriage or a marriage existing for an LGBTQ person altogether. Now, where it started was in Germany, when in 1899 Albert von Schreck-Notzig claimed to have cured a man of homosexuality in 45 therapy sessions, along with hypnotherapy sessions, along with a few visits to the brothel. And what he kicked off at that time is a dangerous practice in the psychiatry and psychology circles at the time, which eventually will lead to physical violence and oppression against a lot of people. And of course, at the time, being queer or being oriented towards wanting to be homosexual or not conforming to your gender was looked at as a bad thing, especially in the Victorian circles and the West at large. And hence, the LGBTQ community was forced to conform to these genders because of the social ostracization and, of course, pressure from family and friends, not finding a safe place in society because it was not accepted at the time. And conversion therapy was at its full swing, especially in the earlier wings of the 20th century, and it became a more established practice well into the current times, actually. However, in 1973, a big move was made by the APA, or the American Psychiatric Association, which officially removed homosexuality or sexual orientation that was towards your own sex from the list of disorders. But the sexual orientation by itself not being a disorder and not affecting your biopsychosocial health, which is your professional health or your familial health or your biological bodily health as well, which was one of the first big victories for the queer community across the globe and specifically in America, because APA at this time had come to be the most respected association in psychiatry. Now, I'll take a tiny detour from this linear story and we'll talk about things in brackets and pieces. Mostly, I want to talk about an author that I've been reading recently, which is Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault's one of the most contested and the most popular work he's done is Madness and Civilization. It is a book, broadly speaking, very, very, very broadly speaking. I know I am generalizing his text quite a lot. It goes into a lot of specificities. It sort of compares 15th century and 20th century psychiatric institutions, and it sort of claims that psychiatric institutions today are sort of these clinical prisons that are used to control your eccentricity and individuality that used to be accepted in the 15th century. Of course, I've spoken about this on the podcast before. I sort of disagree with a lot of things, but when it comes to homosexuality or gender orientation that's away from, heteronormative, Foucault's completely right. The psychiatric institutions across the world have been found guilty in our history of robbing LGBTQ folk of their individuality, especially when there was no need or no reason to do the same, and of course caused a lot of damage in their way. Some of the most notable cruel experiments in this case were, of course, the 1920s belief that homosexuality, especially in men, came from heterosexual testicles, which means there was surgery done on some of these men. Um, sometimes chemical castration was performed, after which a testicle replacement surgery was followed, which often was unsuccessful. Not to mention the hypnotherapy and therapy involved in the ever since brought a lot of shame and guilt and unacceptance towards things that people had no control over themselves feeling, resulting in a lot of suicides. As of 2014, 680,000 gay men by themselves have been subjected to gay conversion therapy in America alone. The statistics in India are unclear for reasons that are pretty obvious to me, that in general India doesn't have a lot of reliable data on psychological health of their individuals. The last 10 years have been really great, but nothing too reliable has come from the past. Well, of course, these are the common ones: electroconvulsive therapies, and, well, surgeries, and in some cases even corrective rape was performed in the West. When it comes to the East, the practice is very, very, very low documented. However, Dr. Lata Hemchand, a practicing psychologist in Bangalore, spoke to some people who are doing research on LGBTQ rights across the world, and she suggests that corrective rape was very, very, very common in India, specifically in conservative uh, circles after the arrival of the British. Before the arrival of the British, the queer were accepted in a completely quiet way. There is, of course, literature and the monuments in Khajuraho temple, literature being Kama Sutra, where homosexuality and polygamy were sort of very well accepted. The Mahabharata is the witness for the gender non-binaries to have a place in Indian culture, especially at least in Hindu culture. And after the Mughals arrive and the Adil Shahi arrives in the 11th century, sort of from the Eurasian step downwards, with a more modern understanding of Islam, homosexuality becomes more secretive and sodomy is punished at the time. So, of course, it becomes secretive. It's something that is overlooked and not paid too much attention to, but is punished when found out. But however, even before that, it was not completely open behavior. Artha Veda, I think one of the Vedas, I forget the name, the one that starts with an A. I'm so sorry. Uh, but I am too lazy to go look that up again. Atharva Veda. I'm so sorry. Atharva Veda sort of writes about the penalties for engaging in homosexual acts, which was much, much, much lesser than sodomy with a woman for some reason. And of course, sodomy at the time was a lifestyle choice for the upper class, which was very well accepted, to the point that it was documented as a thing of the luxury to do or the eccentric to do. And our history sort of pans from there. But 1861, Section 377 gets written in the IPC, and homosexuality gets criminalized, which will be read out of the ambit of the law only in September of 2018. Homosexuality will remain a crime in India to the greatest extent. And while the Indian Psychiatric Association agreed on the fact that homosexuality is no longer a disorder or an abnormality in the sense something that needs to be corrected in an individual, Dr. Hemchand claims that that didn't have a very big effect, or at least the research that she was spoken into did not claim that way either. Corrective therapy, especially corrective hypnotherapy, still remains a big thing. In 1977, the Indian Psychiatric Association published a journal which sort of had a very, very, very boastful claim that corrective therapy for homosexuals work. And the experiment consisted of 6 subjects, 3 men and 3 women, all of whom were very, very openly gay at the time. And they were put through corrective therapy when they were willing to get rid of homosexuality for their family. And they were put through shock therapy for 45 images of the person of the same sex. They were that of their choosing were associated by Pavlovian conditioning to an electric shock to their genitals. Rumoredly, of course, no tissue damage was done, and four of them got married. Four of them successfully claimed that they were heterosexual now, and three of them even got married to a man or a woman accordingly. Psychiatrist who was involved, who was the lead psychiatrist in this study, still believed as of 2014 that this test worked and had done it for another person since. Now, luckily, this practice has been outlawed in most countries and looked down upon even in India. At least a civil suit for clinical, like medical negligence, can be filed, if nothing else. But that is my limited legal research. I have failed you on that front. I'm pretty sure that somebody will be able to help. I am looking for those solutions myself, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Of course, America also has this. Mostly religious institutions have taken up the initiative to promote this sort of therapy. It is, of course, mostly involved in conditioning people to believe that they're heterosexual because they don't want to let down their family, their friends, and they want to be accepted in a part of society that is not accepting of homosexuality. And it is accompanied with a lot of guilt and shame that takes a lot of lives, sometimes completely irreparable psychological damage as well. Some of these Pavlovian experiments, especially the one done in India in 1977, come from a long family of Pavlovian conditioning or attempts at the same, where people were given chemicals that would make them vomit. Skin was cut. Of course, electrocution was the most common one. For every time they had a sexual thought pertaining to the gender that they're not supposed to have in those societies, and conformity was accordingly achieved from this group of samples. Interestingly, what it does remind me of 1984, and I know that's a bit of a jump for people who've read the book, but one of the tropes in the book is Room 101, where one of the things that they ask subjects is 2 plus 2 equals 5. Now, not only do they want you to say that it's 2 plus 2 equals 5, but they want you to believe that it's 2 plus 2 equals 5. And all amounts of regular beating, exposure to your biggest fear, and excruciating physical pain is subjected to people in this room so that conformity with the state is achieved. Now, of course, state is not guilty. The Psychiatric Association is, society is guilty at large of this crime before this. And that's sort of where conversion therapy comes from. And I know that most of the content on this already exists. I just wanted to record and condense it for people who don't have a lot of time to sort of know of this, but I thought it was important to know. So here you go. Let your friends know if they didn't know that conversion therapy exists to this day. Actually, I would actually suggest that if you don't believe me that conversion therapy is a very real thing in today's world, just Google the words "how to overcome homosexuality," "child is gay, what to do" in YouTube. I'm not even kidding, YouTube. And you will find advertisements, literal advertisements from your local language speaking psychiatrists who will advertise that if you want us to cure you of homosexuality, we will work out a solution for you. Some of them even pitching homophobic thoughts in the brains of their audience, which is mostly older people, because the like to dislike ratio in those videos is very clear to us. I'm not going to link those videos in my description. I do not want to participate in the marketing of these psychiatrists, but I'm pretty certain the fact that some of them even put the Creative Commons license in their video, wanted this video to be reposted. So I am not going to give in to that, definitely. But I do want my podcast listeners, because I know that my podcast listeners are mostly enlightened enough to know that homosexuality is not a crime nor a disorder. So I just want you to know about that. And all of these solutions are sort of sold as the one and all thing to fix your life. And these are legitimate psychiatrists, at least in India. I don't know about America. As of people who are more interested in what the scenario is in America, there is a 3-part Vice documentary on the topic, which I will be happy to link down in the description. Beyond that, I would like you to know that this is very much a thing. So is corrective rape. Corrective rape is actually not as institutionalized because rape now has a very negative name in India, especially in the last 8 years. There has been constant protest by feminist groups and student groups that are aligned with feminist groups against the same, for reasons that are obvious. Rape is bad. If you didn't know, now you know. Corrective rape is sort of more popular among families in the hope that they will now like men instead of women. The husbands sometimes are involved, especially in the more ignorant circles of the society. And religion, unfortunately, has had a major role to play in this. I can't underplay it, I'm sorry. But Christianity at large has helped promote homophobia across Africa, as you didn't know. And of course, their works in America still run gay conversion therapy centers that will help you overcome homosexuality, like alcoholism. And well, there's something called revive reparative therapy of homosexuality, which is very popular on Amazon. Books for which are sold. And I think that's all the information I have to give you for that. Well, thank you for tuning in. That was all we have for you this week, this month. I don't know how I'm doing these things anymore. And like, share, subscribe, especially on YouTube. And for people who didn't know, we're available on YouTube, of course, because that's where most of my discovery happens, but also available on all major podcast distributing platforms, including Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, what have you. Whatever you use, we're there. Just listen to this shit.